Greetings, everybody. This is Serpentine451, and welcome to another episode of Weeb Warriors. Now, due to this season schedule, Jordan will not be joining me will only be joining me every other Thursday. So there will be weeks where it's just little old me by my lonesome, and weeks where I have Jordan with me. This week is one of those weeks where I am by my little lonesome. Now, let's actually get to these reviews, shall we? Let's start with Vinland Saga, episode 14, The Light of Dawn. Essentially, in this episode, how should I put this? It all hinges on one big theme. It's our gang of Vikings traveling to Mercia. But they run into a village of Christians, where the other part of the story kicks in, where we meet a Christian girl named Anne who stole a ring from the market and is struggling with faith. And when her village is overtaken by our protagonists in an attempt to gather food for the blizzard of a winter they're experiencing, I should say, Ashulid gives out the order to he kills everyone except for Anne, and the priest doing his best to actually try to save everyone from, instantaneous death. And at the end of the episode speaks to God, where she doesn't believe that there can't be anyone that isn't afraid of his punishment, and that she feels elated that she is free from her family, and the fact that she was also felt elated when she took the ring. And that's essentially what happened in the episode, so I'm not going to divulge much further into that. But, all in all, still a great episode and still beautifully animated. Wit Studio is doing a fantastic job with this series. I will have to say that straight up. Next up, let's go into Dr. Stone, and that would be Dr. Stone episode 15, the culmination of 2 million years. Well, basically, by default, Senku wins the grand bout and ends up as the chief and Ruri's husband. And they were able to finish making the sulfate drug in order to cure her of her illness, which Senku actually tested out to see what was going on. He first thought it was tuberculosis, which, if it was tuberculosis, which it ultimately wasn't, they would have needed something far more powerful to actually deal with it. But it ended up being pneumonia. And with some, bumps in the road from the old village chieftain almost beating the shit out of Senku. And also we have the funny bit that kept me laughing was Ginro decided, Rui's okay to marry anybody. I'm going to become the village chief, and I'm going to beat ass and have harems and shit. Well, to be fair, the entire episode had me laughing. And it was very heartwarming to see Senku win out and win the trust of the entire village, which ended up to be named after him in a way, because it is revealed that the village is called Ishigami Village, meaning it is his surname. Now, the reason why it's called that, I am not 100% sure, and I hope Jay tells us that in the near future. Next up, we have Fire Force Episode 12, eve of hostilities in Asakusa. So, all the episode boils down to Benimaru overhearing the false people imitating Captain Obi and the lieutenant about them causing the artificial infernals to come about and ultimately attack the town that District 7 is in, which ended up being a fight scene between Benimaru and the entirety of District 8. With Captain Obi pulling out the stops in this fight, really showing how tenacious and strong this man is. And we also got to learn of what happened to the lieutenant of the 7th and what happens when you exceed your limit as a pyrokinetic, which ultimately leaves you to start to burn uncontrollably, and if you use your abilities too much in this state, you'll end up turning into ash. And the faction that, well, the white shrouded individuals really went through their plan in making sure that they weren't discovered and that the 8th are eliminated in this episode as well. And they have plenty of bugs to cause more of a ruckus. Oh, and also, the 8th also helped the 7th rebuild parts of the village with some funny scenes here and there. And Tama actually ended up being a fan service character as per usual, which is rather amusing in their own special ways. But anyway, that's the episode. Next up, let's actually talk about My Hero Academia Season 4, Episode 1, which is basically the recap episode with a character who is a freelance reporter with a quirk that allows him to basically take pictures everywhere and print them out on a certain part of his chest. He is sent to UA under the guise of being reporting on the living conditions for the students now that the dorms exist. But in actuality, he was sent by an editor-in-chief of a publishing firm to figure out who the successor of All Might is, which he ultimately talks to Izuku, and they ended up having a really great moment between the two. And it was a great way to get people who either just finished season 3 like season or so ago, a couple seasons ago, and forgot what initially happened, and to refresh themselves with the characters, or are big fans of the series anyway, and are really looking forward to the season that's going on right now. I mean, it's the 8 Precepts arc. I am excited. I am definitely excited, because the next episode is going to focus on the League of Villains meeting up with Chisaki. And that will be just great to see animated. Honestly, it's going to be great, guys, who are anime onlys. Although, one thing I would have to say is that I like the deduction that our freelance reporter actually went through to figure out who the successor of All Might was. And I gotta give it to him using deductive reasoning, which is great, and just clever tactics. But that's all I have to say about the episode. It's a great, introductory, in a way, like a refresher episode, not introductory. It's a great refresher episode in its own special way for people to kind of remind themselves of these characters again. But if you're binge watching the show like I know most people would do anyway, then this would be ultimately pointless. But hey, c'est la vie. And next we go to We Never Learn Episode 2. Essentially, from what I can remember, this episode is Uh, we have one of the bigger moments in the episode where Asumi and Nariyuki are tag team partners and go in a cleaning service binge to help individuals not only do maid things like cleaning and such, but also cook for them if they ordered it specifically, because not enough customers are coming to the maid cafe. So they first go to Mifuyu's house, well, Mifuyu's apartment, and Mifuyu's like, I'm not gonna let a former student of mine see my dirty ass apartment. Hell no. So she sees Nariyuki, pulls him in, takes this man 30 minutes just to clean everything. And then, next up, Urika is trying to take care of her mom. Her mom basically said, oh yeah, you don't have to worry about cleaning since you had studying and swimming practice. I called a service to actually help clean and cook food. And no worries there. And so when Urika comes to the door to answer it, it's Asumi and Nariyuki. Where she loses her shit, it ultimately just cleans and cooks for them, and she made some banging food, which is great. And then finally, we end up with with Fumino, where she just does not do well in the kitchen. She destroys her kitchen, cannot clean it. So, embarrassed at the fact that Nariyuki would be going into her house, and as a girl, she didn't want Nariyuki to have this impression that she can't do household shit, which is an antiquated thought, by the way. Well, I'm not going to get into the concepts of what makes a gender. It's fucking stupid. Anyway, people can do whatever the hell they want. That's all that matters. So she calls Rizu in order to get some food, which is just great. And that whole section of the episode pretty much ends when Asumi and Nariyuki head back to he's gonna head back to his place, but she's like, I haven't felt like I did a damn thing. You are gonna let me clean your house, and I'm gonna cook you some damn food, and you're gonna have some special service by me cleaning your damn ears. And I thought that was great. And then the next part of the episode is Mifuyu, in a tired state of mind, trying to make a pop quiz for her world history class, starts to nod off throughout the day, which she yelled at Fumino for, and ultimately couldn't find her house key at the tail end of the episode, tail end of the vignette, and she was able to find it, but in the most ridiculous place possible. And she was able to get back into her apartment after many shenanigans, and she falls asleep right in front of the front door. So Nariyuki, who was with her throughout this endeavor, gets her back to bed and cleans her apartment again. Still, very great episode. I'm glad to see this show again. Just great, fantastic, very funny, very good. And then, down to the last show is Oriski. Episode 2. Oh, Lord Jesus. Since I've actually discovered the source material through interesting means, I should say, this episode basically starts with a conversation between Pansy and Joro, where he explains what happened before he actually came to have lunch with her. Cosmos and Himari are having issues trying to get Sunchan's attention, so they devised plans on their own to figure out what they can do. Himari wants to go see a movie with Sunchan, which she ultimately gets to do, and Cosmos wants to have lunch with Sunchan. Then we have a moment of the episode where Sunshine declares that he loves Pansy in the same sort of circumstance that Joro is very familiar with. The bench, the koi, touching of the hair, embarrassment. And ultimately, he's like, why the fuck do you want to fall in love with her? And so Sunshine explains why he fell in love with her. Because she gave him words of encouragement when he ran into her on the south gate of the same circumstances that Cosmos and Himari fell for him. In that same damn circumstance that Jordan and I mentioned in last week's reviews. Oh, Lord Jesus. It was still pretty damn good. But the episode ultimately leads to a big misunderstanding that will not be seen clearly until the next episode. So Pansy does not talk to Joro. The girls found out that Sunshine likes Pansy, and they ultimately say goodbye to Joro, since they don't need his help anymore, since they're gonna help Sunshine try to get with Pansy. Which Pansy asked Joro to come to the library, and this will ultimately lead to a very, very interesting confrontation, because it ends on a cliffhanger, folks, and it's going to get absolutely bonkers. Now, I want to get to an interesting topic for the soapbox. It's the topic of OVAs, or original video, or original video anime, I think is what they're called. I'll just call them OVAs. I've seen a few OVAs in my time, and some of them have actually been very great for the series that they're connected to. Or they're just OVA adaptations of manga series that I know exist and have come across. Or they're OVAs of series that have a long-standing history. And one of the things that I like about OVAs is that they kind of test the waters, or they're little side stories in some cases that you never normally get. Although I haven't personally watched any, I'm very curious to watch the Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe OVAs, because I really like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I really want to see how those individual one-shot stories that Araki made are animated. Pardon me, that's kind of my thing. Oh, and also, some of the OVAs that I've come across are interesting adaptations, I should say. What do I mean by that? It's essentially, an OVA can be, you can get away with stuff in an OVA that you can't typically get in a syndicated show most of the time. It's kind of like hentai in a way, but the reason why I say that is sometimes an OVA can just be far more entertaining. Ryo-Ohki, Tsuchimuya Ryo-Ohki started as an OVA series, although nothing really too crazy happened in it, but you actually, at some points, although this is just my memory of it, so I'm not going to say 100% if it's true or not, I vaguely recall when I was just a wee nipper, when I first saw Ryo-Ohki, I didn't know anything of what it was, of course. And I do vehemently recall, upon rewatching it, many years later, that Ryoko does indeed have nips. Now, why do I say this? In typical anime that's syndicated, they're blurred out due to the graphic nature of some scenes, or they want to, like, obscure things for fan servicey scenes. And in a way, I kind of agree with some anime doing that because of the time that they're released in Japan. But with OVAs, you can actually get away with some of it. That's the point that I was trying to make at first. And plus, if you want to tell a fun story that's either like an anime original that's not really based off the source material, or is something completely unique and you wanted to test the waters, an OVA is the best way to go about it. It's to get the creative juices flowing. And I'm all about giving all sorts of creative energy. Hell, that's why manga, light novels, comics here in the West, books, regular novels, all sorts of stuff that emanate with creative energy. We want to do something that's just part of our passion, our greatest joy that we want to bring upon the world and just let loose. And OVAs are essentially another conduit that the anime industry can really do that. And plus, the Danmachi OVAs are a hell of a lot of fun. Other OVAs, even though they're mostly like filler-based OVAs that kind of like add a little spice to a show that doesn't necessarily need it, but it's still high quality and well made in some situations. But that's all I have to say about, like, the reason why. Well, I didn't really propose it as a question. So I'll just say it like this. I like OVAs. They're awesome. They're fantastic. But some are a lot harder to find than others. So this has been Serpentine451, and I hope you guys join me next week, where Jordan will definitely be joining me. So, with that being said, thanks for watching. Tune in next week. All that rigmarole. And I hope beyond hope, that if I were to ever see another OVA that piques my interest, I'll let you guys know about it. Maybe I can do an individual review of it. Later.